Hi there, good afternoon. It is Super Bowl Sunday. It's a little bit afternoon and I am starting my new weekly reading vlog. I have a little bit more time before we get our sort of pre-game festivities going. But I did spend some time finishing up The Hidden Gallery by Maryrose. This is the second book in the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place series. This is a middle grade book centering 3 children that were found in the woods and presumably raised by wolves, and their governess Penelope. So throughout this series, there's just all these little word plays and puns made on what is happening with the children's studies and the events occurring through the plot of the novel. And so they're just really fun to sort of breeze through, spend a couple hours with these kids in Victorian era London as we try to determine the origins of the Incorrigible Children of Ashton Place. And what we learn is a growing mystery regarding Penelope's parents. So Penelope is a governess and she went to a school for essentially abandoned children who were not housed elsewhere. So Penelope has received an education full of platitudes from a character named Agatha Swanburn, and all these little one-liners that are supposed to direct someone on the correct path in their life. So it's all very goofy and sort of silly in these platitudes or one-liners. But it turns out there might be more to Penelope's parents and her own origins, and that may coincide with where the children came from. So I'll see if my library has the next book in the series and probably pick that up in the next few weeks. Otherwise, I don't really know what I'm going to get into. I'm still working on my audiobook for Real Life by Brandon Taylor. I have book club for that on Tuesday evening, so I have a couple more days to work through the latter half of that novel. And I have a different book club on Friday night, where I will be rereading The Magic Fish by Trung Nguyen. This is a graphic novel that I read as an e-copy first. So I borrowed the physical book from my library, and hopefully that'll give me a different experience reading it through this time, and then being able to discuss it with others. Would certainly look forward to doing that. Whenever I make any more progress, I will be sure to check back in. Hi all, just checking in. It's about 5 o'clock. We have made the guacamole. It is now chilling. Hoping to have that during the first half of the football game this evening. I spent the afternoon reading the magazine I picked up at Barnes & Noble a couple weeks ago. This is the second issue of O Reader, and it's super cute. It's just a collection of pieces sort of about folks' love of reading, and it's just very sweet. I will likely take some time this evening during the dull spots in the game, I guess, to continue reading my ebook. This is Down Comes the Night by Allison Soft. And I'd like to incorporate another tag into this weekly vlog, kind of answering a few questions in any given moment. So the tag that I'll be completing this week is the Reading Habits book tag. I was not tagged to do this, but I like the questions and it kind of gives you an opportunity to get to know me as a reader a little bit better. And so the first question is, do you have a spot in your house dedicated for reading, or a spot that you enjoy reading? Not a particular spot, mostly my couch, which is where I am right now. I have a lamp over there. I have a lamp right behind me, so just depending on where the light is needed, I can make that happen. I also have a chair over in that corner, especially if we're not watching TV. That's a great place for me to sit and read. And I do have a matching chair in the opposite corner of the room. However, I don't have any light over there, so sort of hit or miss as to how functional that space can be. I will also read in bed before, laying down for the evening. Yeah, those are about my spots. The second question is bookmark or random piece of paper. I tend actually not to use bookmarks. Part of it is I read in larger chunks. There's another question that I'm sort of touching on right now, but I tend to read to a chapter or even to like a certain number of chapters. So I have a pretty good idea of where I'm leaving off when I'm finished for the time being in any particular book. Obviously my audiobooks or my ebooks will hold my place for me. So I'm only keeping track of like 1 or 2 physical books at a time of where I am when I need to pick it back up again. So I have bookmarks, but I don't use them very often. And that's what you're getting for right now. I might check in again later, but I think the game's going to be on pretty late and it may be tomorrow morning. I will let you know what's going on this week. So I'll see you later.
Hi all, it's Monday evening. I have finished work for the day and I'm sitting at my desk, which looks a little bit different because I just put a few decorations up behind me, so no more blank white wall. It is nothing fancy and they are just taped, but I thought it was a little more interesting to see something other than nothing behind my head. I don't have too much to update you on. I've read a couple more chapters of my ebook and listened to a little bit more of my audiobook, which I need to sink some time into this evening so that I'm prepared for our book discussion tomorrow night. And I have to do my homework. So trying to figure out the priorities for that when all I really want to do is watch Netflix. I will let you know later what I have decided on. See you then.
The whole reason that I pulled out my camera setup was to update the Reading Habits book tag, and then I forgot and went on to do something else, but I came right back. I'll do the next couple of questions here. Question number 3 is, can you just stop reading, or do you have to stop after a chapter or a specific number of pages? So I touched on this a little bit yesterday when I was answering question 2 about bookmarks. I tend to read at least to the end of a chapter. In that way, it makes it relatively easy for me to come back and figure out where I was. The other like sort of borderline neurotic thing that I do is I like to read in 5 chapter chunks. So if a book has 20 chapters, then I'd like to read through chapter 5 before I stop reading. And then the next time I pick it up, I'd like to read through chapter 10. That's not always possible, dependent on how long those chapters are, but that's sort of the way my brain works. And question 4 is, do you eat or drink while reading? Not typically. I tend to pour myself a cup of coffee or a water bottle or get a bowl of grapes for a snack, and then I promptly forget that they are there. So my coffee gets cold, my water gets warm, and the snacks sometimes, if I'm engaged enough, it's sort of an automatic action, which is not great, but again, sort of how my brain works. So I like to try to drink something, coffee, tea, water, while I'm reading, and I just forget. So that's where we are. That was the real reason for my update, since I haven't done much reading and I'm going back to my homework now. So see you later.
Well, good afternoon. Hopefully this will be pretty quick because I will definitely continue to lose light from that window, which will just change all of the balance because that's a really big thing in my production. It is Tuesday at about 5 o'clock. So I had a snow day today. Woo! That means I had ample time to finish the audiobook for Real Life by Brandon Taylor, narrated by Kevin R. Free. I am attending a library book discussion for this novel later this evening. So 1, I wanted to make sure that it was finished. And 2, I did want to look up some book reviews or conversations with the author regarding the writing of this novel. As I mentioned, it wasn't written for me, and not every book has to be written for me, obviously. And the construction of this book was really very interesting. I listened to an interview that Brandon Taylor did with NPR, and also checked out an interview that he did with The Guardian, both of which obviously gave his perspective on the writing of this novel and who he's written it for. So the premise is that this book takes place over the course of a weekend, starts on Friday, and focuses on a Black gay graduate student, or PhD student maybe, named Wallace, who breeds nematodes. So the work is very tedious and very isolating. And this is coming from Brandon Taylor's personal experience. So the science writing was really cool in that it doesn't cause the reader to disengage, and shows that the author knows what he's talking about, because obviously he does, based on his personal experiences. And then throughout the course of the weekend, we see Wallace interacting with individuals who fund his research program at the university, interactions with his friends or classmates, and really just exposes those experiences. And being written in the third person, we also get to see from outside of Wallace, so we can witness something like a microaggression occur, and then we also see Wallace's response, which may also not be all that charitable to the person that he's interacting with. And it doesn't have to be, but that also doesn't mean that Wallace is completely absolved of thinking of someone incorrectly, right? Because everybody has their own things going on. Throughout the course of this novel, we see that those things that are occurring in everyone else's lives in snippets, and how they're interacting with Wallace. But it's also not meant to be like an issues book, if that makes any sense. So it's really just Wallace's experience, and we're seeing it in print. What was cool about the Guardian article was he expressed having written this book in a 5-week time frame. So the fact that the novel takes place over a very short period of time, and it was written over a very short period of time, it gets to the point. There really isn't a whole lot of like what you would describe as flowery writing, and really shows the real experience of this cast of characters and how they're interacting with each other, rather than like waxing poetic on something utterly meaningless. The other review that I found instructional to my understanding and being able to define the structure, some of the structure that's in this novel, is from the Los Angeles Review of Books. And I'll link all of these resources below under my timestamp, so you guys can check it out and see what it is that I'm talking about. So it looks at Brandon Taylor's use of simile and the use of water throughout the course of the novel. And I thought that was really cool, because it really wasn't something that I picked up on while I was reading, which is probably my own shortfall, because I'm really not a very literary type reader. But it definitely helps to enhance understanding and enhance the experience of reading the book as a whole. So I'm looking forward to discussing it with others. Thank you for allowing me to wax poetic on this book that I have just finished. And I will likely be jumping right into my next audiobook as I run one more errand this evening. That will be The Magnetic Girl by Jessica Handler. Reading this for another book club, which is next week. So you'll hear about that. The other thing that I wanted to do while I was here was update my reading habits book tag, give you the next couple of questions. And here we go. Question 5. Is multitasking music or TV while reading? Yes. Sometimes, I've mentioned that I will read while the football game is on, and sometimes it's more challenging than others, dependent on who's playing. Matt will watch just about anyone play football unless he really, really, really doesn't care who wins. And he normally has some sort of personal stake or feeling in the victor of a given match. When that happens and I am utterly disinterested in the outcome of the game, then I'm capable of paying attention to my book and sit on the couch with him. Music, not so much, because I have a music background. So even if I try to put on like classical music for reading, then it turns into Debussy and Mozart, piano piece that I'm like, oh, I recall playing this, or someone studying this, or it being highlighted in a recital or coursework somewhere. So that can be very distracting for me. What I will do, and what I've really enjoyed, is using the sort of ambiance rooms available in YouTube. So basically I'll just search for ambiance or like morning ambiance or ASMR. Sometimes those are the weird ones that I don't go for. But just like the background noise. I can do the like coffee shop with the low-key jazz music, because that tends to just be a theme on repeat rather than an actual piece of music that I would recognize. So that's fine. I like the rain sounds and the wave sounds and the fire crackling and those types of environments. So that'll put me in a nice headspace to settle in and read. Question 6 is one book at a time or several at once. If you've seen any of my content before, you already know the answer to this, and that is definitely more than one. Typically always have an audiobook, an ebook, and a physical read going at any one time. Sometimes it'll be more than one physical read. I tend to focus on one audiobook at a time, listen in its entirety, and then move on to the next one. Same thing with my ebooks, mostly because once I open up whatever device I'm using or app I'm using to listen or to read in that format, it automatically opens to that title that I left off on. So I'll just finish it and then start a new one. The physical reads really depends on the material involved. So if it's a graphic novel and a fiction book, then I can do that. If it's a nonfiction title, that'll tend to be a little bit more slower moving, in which case I can intersperse with some other type of reading. And so I always have more than one thing going at a time. And that's all I have for right now. I work from home tomorrow again, so I can probably get some reading in between. Maybe I'll try to take a break in the day and give you an update on what's going on. And if so, I will see you then. Hiya! It is Wednesday after work. I only have a little bit of time in between work and a meeting and then rehearsal. So I'm going to try to make this quick. Still haven't had much reading done this week, but I did get a little bit further into my audiobook, The Magnetic Girl by Jessica Handler. I will get you the narrators in my next update. I read the first couple of chapters of a new physical book. This is Front Desk by Kelly Yang. This is the first in a middle grade trilogy about a family of Chinese immigrants and the parents finding employment at a motel reception desk, and focuses on their daughter. I believe she's about to start school, so she's going to be getting to know some of her classmates and having a unique experience compared to some of those classmates, and finding out what her classmates' unique experiences may be, I'm sure, being a middle grade novel. And for the next couple of questions in the reading habits book tag, question 7 asks, reading at home or everywhere? I always have a book with me, right? It's always about prioritizing reading over something else that I could do, like scrolling through Facebook or Instagram. So I tend to listen to audiobooks while I'm driving. That is something that I enjoy doing. I could not tell you the last time I put the radio on in my car. And I always have my phone, so I do have an ebook handy, but whether I'm opening my Kindle app or
my Facebook app is the question. So mostly I read at home, although I do read on the go, primarily via audiobook. And question 8, reading out loud or silently in your head. I have read books out loud before. Primarily it was something that Matthew and I would do as someone was in the kitchen and we were looking to spend time together. So I'd like sit out in the hallway and read out loud. It's not the best way for me to retain information that I'm reading, so it's not something that I do often. For the longest time, I was reading in my head and hearing the words. There's a term for this, and I will look it up, and I will probably bring it to you in my next clip. But hearing the words as you would say them in your mind. And I have sort of attempted to suppress that. I would actually mouth the words as I was reading. And I've been able to pick up speed by sort of dropping that habit and I tend to use a guide finger traveling down the page as I am reading, which helps my brain keep my place while it's also able to increase my reading speed since I'm not thinking about each word as I'm reading it. So neither on that one. And yeah, I probably won't update again today, unfortunately. So this is your one and only Wednesday clip. I'll see you tomorrow. Hi, good morning. It's Thursday. I am working on my coffee for the morning and still huddled under the blankets as I'm waiting for my apartment to warm up. But I did get some nice reading in. I'm now about halfway through Front Desk by Kelly Yang. As I mentioned previously, this is a middle grade novel about a family of Chinese immigrants. And our main character, Mia, loves telling stories and wants to write stories. However, her mother really has her focused on learning math. This helps Mia as she runs the front desk at the hotel that her family is employed at. So while her parents are cleaning the rooms, Mia runs the front desk and checks in our guests. So we have some regular folks and recurring characters in the hotel guests, some of Mia's classmates that have, more complicated backstories than you may imagine at the surface, and sort of exploring different identities and how those levels of identity can affect one's own experiences and how they interact with the world and interact with other people around them. It's a really engaging story, introducing you to so many different topics at a middle grade level and continuing to have that conversation in an engaging and accessible way. So I'm gonna leave you guys here, maybe finish this up before I go into work today. We got snow last night, but alas, not enough for an official snow day. Hopefully I will see you a little bit later. Good evening. It's the end of the day on Thursday, and I just wanted to let you know that I did actually do what I said I was going to and finished Front Desk by Kelly Yang before I left for work today. This novel was about Mia and her parents, all of whom have immigrated from China, to live a better life. This novel is based on Kelly's real life experiences in which her parents obtained employment running a number of motels, and Kelly, did her best to help her parents as needed. So what we see in this novel is our main character, Mia, doing her best to make life better for those around her. There are actually a number of heavy topics that are sort of addressed within this novel, and I believe 2 more coming after. So I think it's a full trilogy, and I'll definitely be picking up the next one when I can get my hands on it. So tomorrow is another day. I have to pick up a new physical read, and I will let you know what that is when I decide on it. So I'll see you then. Hi y'all, Friday evening. I am finished work for the day, as you may well imagine, and did not get any reading done today. So started my day with a meeting, had to complete my work day from there, In said meeting, we did announce that I will be transitioning into a new role at my organization. It's a very slow transition, but I will be taking one step closer to becoming a public librarian. Woo! So I'll be moving into a position that we're titling an adult associate because I'm not a librarian yet, so I can't hold that title. But I will be responsible for many tasks that a librarian would complete on a normal basis. So, very excited about this. Again, it's a very slow transition, but we did make the announcement and I'm very excited to begin that process. I have to read a book in the next 90 minutes before another discussion this evening. This is a graphic novel called The Magic Fish by Trung Nguyen. And I have read this before. I read this prior to its publication. It's a graphic novel about our main character being unsure of how to come out as gay to his Vietnamese parents. So there's sort of a language barrier between the two of them. In the main character's mom being more comfortable in Vietnamese, and our main character, Tien, being more comfortable in English and not knowing the terminology or vocabulary to use to talk about sexuality and being gay with his mom. So what they find is a language in fairy tales. This is a tradition that they have shared throughout Tien's life thus far, and they're able to sort of twist the tales to make things a little clearer and to share their personal stories with each other. So I'll read through this again so that I am well prepared for the discussion this evening. And really quick, because I do have to get to reading, I wanted to finish up the reading habits book tag. So I have 3 questions remaining. Number 9 is, do you read ahead or even skip pages? Absolutely not. Okay, so I'll flip pages to see how many more pages I have to read, but I do not look at content ahead of where I am presently. 10, breaking the spine or keeping it like new. It depends on the book, I guess. Most of my reading comes from the library, and my library books are returned in the same condition in which I borrowed them. My personal collection, I'm a little bit more comfortable with, especially like big fantasy books like Sanderson and Robin Hobb. I have a couple that are actually in the mass market format, which I like because I just beat them up. Those I will break the spine in advance so that I can, just toss them around and fold them over while I'm reading. And those I really couldn't care less what they look like at the end of my reading experience. The full price hardcovers I tend to keep in a little bit better shape. So it just depends on the nature of the book. Sorry for the angle change. Wow, my arm just gave out real quick. Question 11 was, do you write in your books? And yes, obviously I do not with any of my library books. So sometimes my personal copies, I'm trying to work out how I like to annotate books, and I'd like to get better at sort of reading with intent and being able to make connections to the writing while I'm reading it and sort of noting those connections rather than just like underlining a passage because I like it and I don't really know why. So it's a work in progress. But yes, I do enjoy interacting physically with the text as I move through it. So that was the Reading Habits book tag. I did pull the questions from Noelle Gallagher, who recently completed this tag. I will link her video down below. And if you liked the questions, feel free to consider yourself tagged. You get one last update from me because it is 6:25. My book club meeting is in 5 minutes, and I did manage to finish The Magic Fish, a graphic novel by Trung Nguyen. As I mentioned, this is discussing the way our main character Tien and his mother learn to communicate regarding Tien's sexuality and sort of how his experiences growing up. What the author has done is created a really neat discussion regarding how family members communicate. The author himself is of Vietnamese descent and had a similar relationship with his parents in that they primarily spoke Vietnamese. He primarily spoke English. So at home they had this like hybrid communication style. And what he's done is translated that type of relationship and that type of communication into the graphic novel style. So graphic novels require both the text and the images in order to tell a story. Whereas something like a picture book, the text can be removed and stand on its own without the images. Although obviously the images enhance the story. In a graphic novel, you need the pictures, the images, in order to fill the story's purpose, right? So that stood in for that hybrid language that he had in his family growing up. And the nature of fairy tales to change and shift dependent on the storyteller's experiences or requirements from the story. So while I have read this story before, it was through a digital medium, which I didn't find quite as engaging as turning the actual pages. And I don't believe that it included the author's note, which I very much appreciated and sort of helped enlighten the hybrid language communication technique that he utilized in this graphic novel. So I'm extra excited to log into my book group, my book club discussion for this book, and I will see you in my next vlog. I hope you have had a great week. Let me know in the comments what you have enjoyed reading, are currently reading, or your thoughts on anything that I have picked up this week. And I will see you in the next one. Bye!